Hello everyone, welcome back to the course on Health Humanities, Indian and Western Medical Knowledge Traditions. This is lecture number 48 on Posthumanism and Environmental Futures. Before we come to the concept of posthumanism, let us understand what is humanism and how posthumanism is different from humanism. So when we think about humanism, humanism is something which affirms the dignity and equality of all the people and every elements of the planet, every elements of this nature, every elements of environment. So humanism is something about where one can focus on the idea of universal human qualities. And these universal human qualities are about how one can consider that environment and human being are one component. They are not separate. In this lecture, I will talk about what is posthumanism and how it is different from humanism. Then I will come to the historical context of posthumanism. I will talk about environmental crisis, then human centricity and ecology, then how posthumanism can provide ecological visions, the role of technology in post-human future, and then the need of environmental justice. Further, I will bring a textual studies of two texts, the sixth extinction and animals people. Then I'll briefly provide a critique of posthumanism. So what is posthumanism? And this question when arises what is posthumanism, then one has to consider that posthumanism is something the end or demise of humanism. What humanism is something which is about universal values, universal ethics, about equality of human beings. So posthumanism is the end of or demise of humanism. It embraces a new way of understanding and constructing human being and human self. So posthumanism accepts and provides a new approach in understanding human self, human identity, and it also refers to the general idea about how human beings are in the process of becoming. They are not complete. They are always evolving. They are evolving in relation to nature. They are evolving with the help of technology, with the help of machines. So when we think about posthumanism, it is trying to formulate a new concept of human being where human beings are not the what you call a kind of entity which have their core self. Rather, human beings are interconnected with nature, with environment, with technology, and so many other different mediums. And so posthumanism has led to the concept of cyborg or maybe human beings and AI relations. So when we think about posthumanism, then we find that human beings are not someone who are having their unique self and unique identity. Rather, human beings have connections with technology, with machine, and human beings are becoming also the part, our machine are also becoming part of human beings. So in this way, we find that posthumanism is a belief which challenges the conventional notion of human beings, the classical notion of human beings, and reasserts it in a different way, different forms. And when we go further in the philosophical tradition, we find that, for example, Michel Foucault says that human being is an invention of language and of technology. It is bound to disappear. Human beings are bound to disappear once they find another medium. And in this regard, posthumanism blurs the identities such as gender, species, and race. We can find that with the help of technology, with the help of machines, like one is blurring one's identity. One will not remain solely just a human, rather one is a part of machine and technology. One is also becoming part of different other components. So when we think like what is the like conceptualization of human being, and then we find that posthumanism provides a new avatar of human beings, and this new avatar of human beings seeks to move beyond the traditional humanist way of thinking about autonomous, self-willed individual agents in order to treat the human itself as an assemblage co-evolving with other forms of life enmeshed with the environment and technology. So we find that human beings are becoming assemblages where environment and technology are becoming inherent part of human existence, human life. We also notice that the key concern of posthumanism is to reject the exceptionalism of human beings, that human beings are exceptional. They have control over nature, they have control over technology, they have control over every other being. So the idea of posthumanism is to consider human beings in relation with nature, in relation with planet, and human beings are not the supreme being, not human beings are not the master of this universe. The idea of posthumanism also merges technology and biology. It talks about how human beings can be like restructured, reformulated through different means. For example, like when we think about the what we call merging of technology and biology, there are like different novels and different literary pieces who talks about how there's a like merging of machines and technology. For example, Ian McEwan's Machines Like Us, and uh, Kazuo Ishiguro's the novel called Clara and the Sun. They talk about the integration of machine and human beings. In the case of Clara and the Sun, Clara is a robot, and it has been bought to actually bought as a toy or as a kind of friend to a girl named Josie who is sick. But when her mother finds that Josie will be dying after a point of time, then she tries to actually impart all her memories in the robot Clara, who is surviving with the help of sun, with the energy of the sun. So we find that there is a merging of technology in the human beings. The idea of posthumanism also provides the recognition of agencies of non-human entities, that non-human entities are also part of human beings. They are not separate. When we look at the like origin and evolution of posthumanism, the historical context of posthumanism, then we find that the idea of posthumanism is a philosophical and cultural movement that emerges as a critique of humanism, and it actually critiques the human exceptionalism, that human beings are supreme and they can control nature, they can control the planet. So to understand posthumanism, it's essential to explore the historical context which draws from various intellectual traditions and environmental advancements and technological advancements. In this lecture, I'll focus on like how the philosophy of Nietzsche and Heidegger has contributed in the critique of humanism and have led to the development of posthumanism. So when we think about Nietzsche's critique of humanism, we find that Nietzsche was one of the forerunners of posthumanism. He has questioned the idea of fixed human nature, and he has questioned the belief that humans hold a privileged position in the universe. And he has proposed that humanity is not the pinnacle of evolution, but rather in a state of becoming, always in a flux. So Nietzsche says that human beings have not achieved their ultimate status, rather they are in the process of becoming, in the process of evolution. Then Heidegger talks about the philosophy of technology, and he says that technological advancement has fundamentally altered the way human beings relate to the world and how they relate with each other. He warned, Heidegger warned that viewing everything, including nature, as a resource is something harmful. So Heidegger says nature is not just a resource, rather it is a kind of it is a kind where human being can live in a some kind of coordination. So with Heidegger, humanism has been seen as something which has been in the process of what you call extinction. So humanism is basically dying with Heidegger, and he says that the philosophical, ethical, scientific inquiry of human beings are not complete in itself. Rather, he also questions that the idea of human rationality, autonomy, and superiority over other forms of life are human construct. It needs to be examined. Then we also need to think about the impact of technology, and particularly how artificial intelligence is affecting not just human health but also the health of nature, and how AI has become the integral part of human being and nature. And the idea of AI can be also seen to some extent going back to Donna Haraway's concept of cyborg. And in her cyborg manifesto, Donna Haraway says that he proposes the idea of post-human thought, where she talks about the integration of human, animal, and machines, where the line between human beings, machines, and animals blur. Rather, they become one whole, where machines can be integrated with human body. Human body can be integrated with machines and other animals. So in this way, post-humanism is a reaction to humanism. It is also a reaction to transhumanism. So when we look at these kind of changes happening in human existence, where human beings are not complete, not unique, and they are also providing some kind of coordination with nature. Despite the coordination between human being and nature, we find different problems which are happening, and the problems which one is facing in terms of environmental challenges are like climate change, biodiversity loss, pollution. It is also where we human beings to some extent maintain their centrality despite post-humanism's critique of the centrality of human being. And so the idea of post-human approach is to help to solve the environmental crisis. And the idea of post-human approach is to consider that human beings are part of nature, part of earth, part of the planet, and they can help in solving the crisis of climate. When we think about, for example, the rise of global temperature, extreme weather events, and shifting climates, then we find that the ecosystems and communities and climate change, they are interconnected. And the only way to improve is to actually limit the centrality of human being. So in this way, post-humanism has played a major role in protecting the environmental crisis. For example, we find like the loss of biodiversity, the loss of natural resources. So depletion in natural resources can be seen one of the major crises in the environment. And the only way to approach and to solve is through post-human approach. And when we look at the impact of Anthropocene on the Earth, we find that Anthropocene is something which is characterizing the impact of human being on the Earth and how they are trying to control the biodiversity. So the idea of human centricity and is very crucial for environmental crisis, and this is the concept which post-humanism is critiquing. So post-humanism is against human centrality, human centricity. Rather, post-humanism talks about how human beings have greater role in environmental degradation. Human beings actually indulge in overconsumption, habitat destruction, and the rise of industrialization has led to the destruction of nature, the destruction of environment. And so anthropocentrism is something which is considering that environment is for the sake of human beings. Post-humanism is challenging the concept of anthropocentrism. Post-humanism is challenging that nature is for the sake of human being, nature is for the sake of benefiting human beings. So post-humanism is a kind of solution for environmental degradation, for environmental crisis. So post-humanism offers an alternative to anthropocentrism by advocating for an expanded ethical and moral framework that includes non-human entities, include, for example, animals, plants, ecosystems. Post-humanism encourages a shift in the perspective where human sees themselves as a part of larger, interconnected biosphere rather than separate from it. So this perspective is crucial in creating a sustainable solution and a sustainable development for protecting environmental health. When we think about the influence on environmental movement, we find that environmental and conservation movement are increasing day by day. So this needs to be controlled. This needs to be monitored. So what is post-humanist vision for ecology? And when we think about the post-humanist vision for ecology, it focuses upon the interconnections of different aspects of nature, different aspects of planet. So post-humanism talks about how the natural world and ecological world are interconnected. It talks about how the non-human agencies and human beings needs a kind of coordination. They need some kind of interconnections. So post-humanism considers and views human being as a part of nature, not above nature. So human beings cannot be someone who can be dominating the nature. Rather, human beings are part of the nature. They are not beyond nature. Further, post-humanism talks about the non-human agencies such as animals, plants, and ecosystems. It talks about their active participation in human existence and how human being can also participate in the existence of animals and plants. So the purpose of post-humanism is to consider planets and animals and ecosystem as integral part. Moreover, it provides a new ethical considerations where human beings are moving beyond their own centeredness. Human beings are moving beyond their own rights and considering the rights of nature, considering the rights of ecology. So the idea of post-humanism is to bring new ethical considerations for nature, for ecology, for the planet. It also talks about how technology can be intertwined and merged in the protection of environment. So the idea of post-humanism is to protect nature, to protect environment with the help of technology, with the help of AI that can lead to sustainable development. So it talks about not just like fixing the environmental crisis through nature, but also having ethical concerns, how technology can help in controlling the degradation of planet. However, technology is not the only medium which can help. Rather, technology is something which can help to protect the planet with the help of human beings. So the concerns of post-human and post-humanism is to bring a symbiosis between nature, human being and technology that can lead to the integration of the existence of human being and the existence of nature, how they can exist in coordination with each other. So the purpose of post-humanism is to bring environmental justice. It is about the post-human future where it talks about how climate justice are very essential for human beings. It talks about the health of marginalized communities and non-human species. So the purpose of post-humanism is that marginalized communities as well as non-human species are equally important, and how they can live how they can live a life where everyone has proper opportunities, equal opportunities. What we find that the people who are marginalized, they have less resources, and those who are rich, they access more resources. So marginalized become more prone to the health problems. So the idea of post-humanism provides it helps in addressing inequality in human and non-human spheres. It aims to address the health concerns of human and non-human beings. For example, when we think about Elizabeth Colbert's The Sixth Extinction, it talks about the biodiversity crisis, how we have extinction of different species. It talks about climate change, the rise of sea levels, the different kind of disturbances in different islands. It talks about pollution and different kind of other exploitations happening in terms of deforestation, in terms of air pollution, in terms of exploitation of earth and many other resources. When we think about like Animals People by Indra Sinha, it talks about how Bhopal gas tragedy has altered the life of person, and where human being and animals have become similar. For example, it's a central character who is called Animal. He is living a life of animal. So it talks about how the human rights are equally important. However, it talks about how the health of nature is also important, and brings how the justice of human being and is similar to the justice of nature. Despite all kind of solutions which post-humanism offers, it has certain problems. It talks about, or it asserts the potential loss of human identity, because human beings will not be human beings in their proper sense of the term. Human beings won't be having their unique self. It will also lead to the over-dependence of human beings on environment. It will also lead to the over-dependence of nature on the environment. In this way, it raises ethical dilemmas about biotechnological interventions. To what extent technology can be intervened in the human life? To what extent technology can be used for protecting nature? So these raises some other questions. So to conclude, post-humanism redefines human identity and puts a human being in a broader ecological and technological framework where human beings are not having the unique self, rather human beings are existing in connection with nature and technology. Post-humanism emphasizes ethical engagement with both human beings and non-human beings, and it tries to bring that they can live in a harmony, they can live in a coordination. Post-humanism urges reconsideration of the idea of justice, because earlier justice was focusing only about the human justice. Now human justice will also include the justice to nature, justice to animals, and justice to the planet. It talks about the interdependence in a shared future. In this way, post-humanism encourages shift from anthropocentrism to ecological inclusivity. Thank you.